You stand at the edge of a vast, barren desert. The land stretches before you, ancient, worn, and whispering. Beneath your feet, you feel the faintest tremor or ripple in the earth, barely perceptible. But something in your gut tells you that this is not just a passing sensation. It is a call from the forgotten. In the distance, the jagged peaks of the Andes rise, their snowy tops lost in the clouds. The air is thick with the scent of earth, of stone, of time itself. You hear the wind. It does not just blow across the land, it speaks too. The wind carries a name, Pachacamac. It is a name nearly lost, a whisper that barely survives on the edge of memory, spoken by the few who dare to remember. Pachacamac, the ancient god of earthquakes, the creator of the world, the one who stirs the earth beneath your feet, bringing both creation and destruction in a single motion. But why, you wonder, has the world forgotten him? You step forward, the earth beneath you sighing as if it too remembers. A voice echoes in your mind, one that isn't quite your own. It feels sacred, ancient. You've heard of him before, perhaps in a dream, perhaps in a forgotten story told by the elders of a distant land. But the memory is faint, as though it was meant to be buried in the sands of time. Pachacamac, the wind whispers again. He who created the world with his tremors, and yet he is forgotten. There is something unsettling about this, something that gnaws at you, pulling you deeper into the mystery. Why has Pachacamac been erased from the annals of history? What has been lost in the silence of the mountains in the absence of his name? What truths, what rituals, what forbidden knowledge have we cast aside? A part of you knows that you are standing at the threshold of something ancient, something sacred. The name Pachacamac is more than just a god, is a reminder, a call to reclaim that which has been abandoned. The earth trembles beneath you, just enough to remind you that some gods are never truly gone. They sleep, they wait, and when they awaken, they bring with them the weight of forgotten worlds. As you stand there, you feel the tug, the pull of something far deeper than the earth beneath your feet. It is the pull of memory of a god whose presence was once known, whose worship was once vital. But time has eroded his place in the world, leaving only traces. Fragments of rituals long forgotten, and yet the earth trembles again, just slightly, as if to remind you that Pachacamac is still here, still listening. Before we continue, let us speak of the forgotten temple. It lies beyond the mountains, hidden from view, waiting to be rediscovered. The temple, once a sacred place of reverence, holds the echoes of lost worship, of ancient rites performed in the god's name. Within it, you may find more answers and concerns that the world has long since turned away from. But what you will uncover is unknown. Some truths should not be revealed. So, before you go any further, pause. Listen closely. The god's whisper grows louder, as does the sound of the earth beneath you. Pachacamac, it calls again. Do you hear him now? Let's get started with today's story. You move further into the land, your steps guided not by the path beneath you, but by the whispers of the earth. It is as if the very soil calls to you, pulling you toward something buried deep, hidden from sight. You pause for a moment, your heart thudding in your chest as the wind picks up once more. The whispers grow clearer now, sharp, urgent, as if they seek to draw you closer to an ancient truth. Pachacamac, the wind sighs, he who gave birth to the world through the trembling of the earth. It is said that before Pachacamac, before the world began, there was only chaos, nothing but the void, the eternal dark. And in that void there was a god, a being both creator and destroyer, whose very nature was bound to the earth. This god, Pachacamac, arose from the deepest depths of the earth itself. His body was the earth, his soul the tremors that rocked the land. In his form, the mountains rose, the rivers carved their paths, and the forests grew wild. The first spark of creation came not in a flash of light, as the legends of other gods might suggest, but in the trembling of the earth itself. Pachacamac was born from that tremor, from the shuddering of the earth's bones, and with him came the birth of the world. The mountains that tower above you were his first creation, his mighty hands shaping them with each earthquake. It was through his trembling power that the valleys were carved. The rivers formed, the soil spread across the land. Appreciation, as Pachacamac knew, could not exist without destruction. The earth, though filled with life and beauty, is a fragile thing. With each creation comes the inevitable destruction, the tearing of the old to make way for the new. This, too, was part of Pachacamac's design. He was the god of both creation and annihilation. Without him, the world would be nothing but an endless void. Without him, there would be no mountains, no rivers, no life. But the question remains, did Pachacamac create the earth for the sake of beauty? Or did he create it as a reflection of his own nature, constantly in flux, always trembling, always teetering on the edge of destruction? It is here, in the desolation of the land, where you begin to feel the weight of his existence. The air is thick with the scent of the earth, and the very ground beneath you seems to pulse, alive with his presence. You realize then that you are not simply walking across the land, you are walking through the memory of the god himself, through the echoes of his creation. You feel the tremors beneath your feet once more an echo of the world's birth. You wonder if you are truly standing on solid ground or if the very earth is preparing to shake once again just as it did at the dawn of time. What other truths lie hidden beneath the surface of this land, buried in the folds of Pachacamac's power? Do you feel it? The wind asks, a voice both comforting and terrifying. The world trembles because it is still in the hands of the god. He is both the creator and the destroyer. He is the earth. You step forward, driven by a deep, unsettling curiosity. The more you think about it, the more questions arise within you, questions that have no easy answers. How could a god born from the trembling earth also be its creator? What drove Pachacamac to shape a world so fragile, so prone to destruction? Was he bound by his own power, unable to stop the inevitable collapse that seemed to follow every creation? There is something deeply unsettling about the idea that Pachacamac's very essence is tied to destruction, that his creation of the world is inseparable from its eventual undoing. But perhaps that, too, is part of his divine purpose. Perhaps the world was never meant to stand still, never meant to be untouched by the hand of change. The earth beneath you trembles once again, but this time it is not a simple quake. It is something more profound, something older, deeper. The ground shifts beneath you, and you realize that this is not just a tremor, it is the heartbeat of the earth itself, the rhythm of Pachacamac's power. You pause, feeling the vibrations crawl up your spine, and wonder if the god is still watching, still waiting, still shaping the world through his trembling hands. And so, you continue to walk, your mind heavy with the knowledge that the world itself is in motion, ever changing, ever shifting. The earth moves beneath you, a living entity that is constantly being shaped and reshaped by forces older than you can comprehend. The question is no longer whether the earth trembles, it is what happens when it does. What will be left behind when the dust settles? The wind whispers again. Pachacamac is the earth, and the earth is Pachacamac. As you move on, you wonder, are you walking toward his temple? Toward the heart of his power? Or are you simply walking deeper into the heart of a mystery that has no end? The air grows heavy as you draw closer to the mountains, the land beneath your feet whispering louder with each step. There is a pull here, an undeniable force that guides your movements, urging you forward, deeper into the forgotten. The sacred place, the temple of Pachacamac, waits ahead, hidden among the rugged peaks of the Andes. Though the path is obscured by time and decay, you know you are approaching it. You can feel its presence, ancient and full of mystery, pressing upon the land like the weight of ages. Pachacamac, the earth murmurs again, as if the name itself has become a chant, a prayer. The temple, you realize, is not just a structure made of stone and mortar. It is a living thing, born of the earth itself, shaped by the god's tremors. Each stone that forms its walls is imbued with the echoes of the earth's creation. The walls tremble faintly, as if to remind you of their origin, the quakes that shook the earth, the very foundation of this sacred site. The temple is more than a place of worship. It is a reflection of Pachacamac's power, a conduit for his will. It is said that those who entered this temple could hear the god's voice in the tremors of the earth, feel his power surging through the very stones beneath their feet. But there is something else here, something hidden. The first thing you notice when you step inside is the silence. It is not the quiet of stillness, but the silence that follows after a great storm, heavy, oppressive, as though the earth itself is holding its breath. You walk through the darkened corridors, each step echoing against the stone, until you find yourself standing before a great altar. It is carved from a single block of rock, and etched into its surface are symbols that you cannot quite decipher. They are unfamiliar, foreign, and yet they stir something deep within you, a flicker of recognition that you cannot explain. The whispers grow louder, a chorus of voices that seem to come from within the temple itself, as though the stones are speaking to you. Pachacamac, they say. He who was once worshipped, but whose name now lies forgotten in the dust. Feel a cold shiver run down your spine. The sense of abandonment is overwhelming here. The temple, though magnificent in its design, feels empty, as though it has been abandoned by the very god it was built to honor. Why was it left behind? Why did the worship of Pachacamac fade away, leaving this place to decay and crumble under the weight of time? In the far corner of the temple, you notice something, a faint glow, barely perceptible, emanating from beneath a pile of stone. You approach cautiously, drawn to it as if by some unseen force. As you lift the stones away, your hands brush against something cold, smooth, and ancient. It is a tablet, covered in intricate carvings that are so old, so weathered, that the symbols are almost illegible. But one word stands out among them: Pachacamac. This tablet, you realize, is no ordinary relic. It is a message, a secret left behind by those who once worshipped the god, hidden from the world and from time. What knowledge does it hold? What forbidden truth has it guarded for centuries, locked away beneath the weight of the earth? You run your fingers over the surface of the tablet, feeling the power of the god pulse through it as though it is alive. You understand, then, that the temple itself is a living thing, a vessel for Pachacamac's power. It is a place where the god's presence still lingers, waiting for those who dare to seek him out. But the question remains: what happens to those who find him? What price must they pay for awakening the slumbering god? The temple is more than just a structure. It is a reflection of Pachacamac's nature, ancient, powerful, and ever-changing. It is a place of creation and destruction, a place where the earth itself trembles in reverence. But what happens when the god has been forgotten? What becomes of his temple when the worshippers vanish, leaving only the ruins of their devotion behind? You stand there in the heart of the temple, the tablet in your hands, as the whispers grow louder still. The earth trembles again, and you can feel it deep within your bones. The god is near, his presence undeniable. But is it a presence of power and creation? Or is it a warning? As the echoes of the temple's past fill your mind, you realize that you are not simply standing in a place of worship. You're standing at the threshold of a forgotten world, a world where gods once walked among mortals. The truth that Pachacamac left behind is buried here, hidden beneath the stones, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover it. But be warned, some truths should remain buried. Some secrets are too dangerous to unearth. And as the earth trembles once more, you realize that there are powers in this place far greater than you can comprehend. The temple is not just a relic of the past, it is a warning. A warning to those who seek to awaken that which has long been forgotten. The tablet feels heavier in your hands now, its weight shifting as if it, too, senses the presence of the god. The whispers grow more insistent, swirling around you, echoing off the ancient stone walls of the temple. The air becomes thick, charged with energy, as if the very essence of Pachacamac is beginning to stir, awakened by your presence.
Oh.
It is as though the temple is alive, breathing with you, urging you to listen, to understand, to remember. You set the tablet down carefully on the altar, its intricate carvings glimmering faintly in the dim light. You feel a sudden chill, a coldness that seeps into your bones, and with it, a terrible realization. The whispers are not just voices. They are warnings. These are the voices of those who came before you. Those who stood here in reverence to Pachacamac and left behind more than just stone carvings. They left offerings, blood, a sacrifice to the god who stirred the earth with his trembling power. The old texts speak of it, of rituals that demanded blood, the very life essence of the faithful, given in exchange for the god's favor. You wonder, was it always blood that was needed, or was it something else entirely? Something deeper, darker? The blood sacrifices were said to be powerful enough to awaken Pachacamac, to bring him from the depths of the earth. It is said that the most faithful of the priests would spill their own blood on the altar, offering it to the god as a sign of devotion. The act was not merely symbolic, it was a means of binding the god's power to the mortal realm, of making the earth tremble at his will. But what did the god desire? Was it simply a blood offering, or was there something more, a deeper pact that the priests never fully understood? The rituals were carried out in the dark, in secret, away from prying eyes. What they sought was power, but what they found was something far greater and far more dangerous. You step away from the altar, your heart racing as the air thickens with the stench of old blood, the scent of sacrifice. The wind howls through the temple, sending shivers down your spine. As the earth beneath your feet seems to rumble once more, you feel it deep within you. A pulse that is not your own, a pulse that beats with the rhythm of the earth itself. In the darkest recesses of the temple, you spot something glinting in the dim light, a dagger. Its blade blackened with age, but sharp enough to cut through the veil between the mortal and the divine. You know instinctively that this is the tool used to perform the blood sacrifices. It is a relic of a time long past, when the earth trembled in response to the offerings made in Pachacamac's name. The whispers grow louder now, more urgent, as if the god himself is beckoning you, calling you to complete the ritual. The blood, they say, the offering. You hesitate, feeling the weight of the dagger in your hand, knowing what it represents. This is not just an object, it's a symbol, a key to unlocking something far greater than you could have imagined. The blood that once stained this blade was not just for power, it was a bond, a covenant between the god and his followers. A bond that was sealed with blood, and one that may have been broken with the passage of time. You wonder if the priests knew the true cost of their devotion. Was the blood merely an offering to Pachacamac, or was it a means of binding themselves to him, of becoming part of the very earth they worshipped? What price did they pay for awakening the god? And what price, you wonder, must you pay for standing here, in this sacred, forgotten place? The earth trembles again, but this time, the tremor is different. It is not a simple quake. It is a rumble deep within the earth's core, a primal force that shakes the temple's very foundations. You feel it in your chest, the thundering pulse of the god's power, a force so ancient and raw that it seems to transcend time itself. The whispers are no longer just whispers. They are a chorus, rising from the earth itself, calling you to understand the ritual, to understand what must be done. The blood, the offering, is not just about appeasing the god. It is about power, about control, about forging a connection with the earth itself. But what happens when the offering is made? When the blood is spilled, when the god is awakened, what will come of it? What will be the cost of resurrecting a god whose power was never meant to be wielded by mortal hands? You stand there at the heart of the temple, holding the dagger in your hand, feeling the weight of the choice before you. The whispers seem to echo in your mind, pressing you to act. They are no longer mere voices. They are the earth, the god, the blood itself. The earth trembles again, and you feel the pull, the invitation to offer what was once given in the name of Pachacamac. But this time, you know that the offering will not be the same. The world has changed, and the god has been forgotten. What will it mean to call upon him now? You feel the weight of the decision pressing down on you. A decision that will shape not only your fate, but the fate of the world itself. As you stand before the altar, the weight of the dagger heavy in your grip, a deep unease settles over you. The earth continues its subtle trembling beneath your feet, an unspoken reminder that the god is still watching, still waiting. The silence of the temple now feels oppressive. It's filled with the unseen presence of Pachacamac, whose power courses through the land. The whispers, once faint now, grow louder, as though they are no longer confined to the ancient walls. They seem to rise from the earth itself, from the cracks beneath your feet. You step back from the altar, unsure, torn between the calling of the god and the knowledge of the dangers that lie in such forbidden rites. For in the stories of the priests who once tended to this temple, there was one ritual above all others that promised to awaken the full force of Pachacamac's earthquake ritual. The ritual, however, was not simply about appeasing the god, it was about control. The priests, it is said, would perform the rite in the dead of night beneath a sky thick with clouds and foreboding. At its core, the ritual was an invocation, a plea for Pachacamac to show his favor. But it came at a steep cost. The god would not simply answer requests, he would demand a price. According to the Forgotten Scrolls, the priests who performed the earthquake ritual would stand in a circle around a large stone, this very altar, perhaps and offer not just their blood, but their very devotion. Each one would take the dagger and make an incision into their flesh, spilling their life essence onto the stone. The blood would pool at the base, a symbol of the earth's lifeblood of Pachacamac's power. And in return, the god would shake the earth in his answer. But the quakes, though powerful, were unpredictable. Sometimes they would be violent, breaking the land, tearing open the earth. Other times they were subtle, a tremor barely noticeable, but always, always. They were a sign of Pachacamac's presence, his favor. But what was the true purpose of the ritual? Was it merely to gain the god's favor for a season of harvest, or a year of peace? Or was there something more sinister? The older texts, the ones that were kept hidden from the eyes of the common people, hint at something darker. The ritual was said to cause the earth to tremble, not just in response to a request, but as a way of binding the worshippers to the god forever. The ritual would make the land itself respond to the will of the one who performed it. The priests, their blood spilled onto the earth, would forever be tied to the tremors they invoked. They would become part of the god's power, their souls entwined with Pachacamac's. And when the god shook the earth, they would feel it in their bones, in their very souls. This was the forbidden truth, the secret that was buried by time and obscured by history. The ritual was not just a call for favor, it was a binding contract, one that tied the worshippers to the earth and to the god himself. The priests, once they performed the ritual, could never escape the god's grasp. Even as they aged, as the years passed, the tremors would follow them, growing stronger with each passing quake, until they were consumed by the earth's power. The land that they had once revered would become their prison, a constant reminder of the price they had paid. You pause, the realization settling deep within you. The earth beneath your feet seems to shudder in recognition, as if the god himself has heard your thoughts. The whispers are no longer merely voices, they are the god, reaching out to you, urging you to act. Shh. You can feel his presence, pressing against you from all sides. The earth trembles once more, this time with a strength that rattles your bones. What will you do now? The ritual beckons, but at what cost? If you follow it, if you perform the rite as the priests once did, you will gain a connection to the god, a bond that cannot be undone. You will become a part of the earth, a part of Pachacamac's eternal tremor. But is this a price you are willing to pay? Is this a fate you would willingly embrace? And what of the others who have sought to awaken the god? The earth has trembled for centuries, but the god has remained silent. The temples have crumbled, the worshippers have faded into obscurity, and yet the god's presence lingers, as persistent as the tremors beneath the earth. What will happen when the ritual is performed again? Will the earth crack open? Will the god's power be unleashed once more? Will you, like the priests before you, be consumed by the very forces you seek to control? You are no longer standing in the temple alone. The earth is alive with whispers, with the echo of ancient voices, and you can feel the weight of their gaze upon you. The god watches, waits. The ritual is yours to decide. With trembling hands, you hold the dagger aloft. The whispers swell to a crescendo, the voices of the long-dead priests filling your mind, urging you to perform the ritual. The earth trembles beneath your feet as the god calls out, a low rumbling sound that seems to come from deep within the earth itself. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on you. The earth's heartbeat is loud in your ears, and you wonder, what will you choose? Deep down, that whatever you decide will alter the course of the world forever. The earth shifts beneath you again, this time more violently, as if the very ground is responding to the tension in your heart. The whispers grow louder, pressing against your mind, urging you forward, urging you to complete the ritual. You can feel the pulse of the earth, its heartbeat. Its rhythm, a rhythm that once synchronized with the worshippers of Pachacamac, and still echoes through the ancient ruins of his temple. But beneath this pull there is something else. A deeper, older force, one that has been lingering in the shadows, watching, waiting. Veracocha, the name comes to you unbidden, whispered like a forgotten secret. You know this name. though you do not fully understand it. Viracocha, the god of creation, the one who walked the earth and shaped the world. The great deity of the Andes, worshipped by the Inca long before Pachacamac. But how does Viracocha fit into this story? How does he connect to the trembling earth beneath your feet, to the god of destruction and creation who once shaped the very land you stand on? There is something unsettling about the presence of Viracocha. The great creator god is often seen as the supreme being in Andean cosmology, the one who gave life to the world, the one who shaped the sun, the moon, the stars. But Pachacamac is different. Viracocha is a god of light and creation. Pachacamac is a god of the earth itself, of its tremors and upheavals. His power is rooted in destruction as much as creation. In the shifting of the earth, in the quaking of the land, you pause, your thoughts racing as the air grows heavier, the whispers growing more insistent. Was Pachacamac always meant to be a subordinate god to Viracocha? Or was there once a time long before the rise of the Inca, when Pachacamac was a greater deity, perhaps even appeared to Viracocha himself? The myths are unclear, but the fragments of the past suggest a deeper, more complex relationship between the two gods. It is said that Viracocha created the world, but did he create it alone? Or was there a time when Pachacamac ruled the earth, and Viracocha was merely a visitor, a god of the heavens, not of the land? Perhaps there was a time when the two gods were equal, both shaping the world in their own image. But then, as time passed, the myths began to shift. The story of Viracocha became the dominant one, and Pachacamac, the god of the earth, was pushed into the shadows, forgotten by all but the most devout. What was it that changed? What caused the shift from reverence to neglect? You feel a cold shiver run down your spine? As if the earth itself is rejecting the thought of a time when Pachacamac stood alongside Viracocha. The ground beneath you trembles again, but this time it feels different, darker, heavier, as though the very spirit of the land is rebelling against something forgotten. Was there once a time when Pachacamac's power was so great that it rivaled even Viracocha's? And if so, what happened to that power? Did it fade away when the people stopped worshipping him? Or did something darker, something more mysterious, take hold of the god, casting him into obscurity? The earth trembles once more, but this time, the tremor feels like a warning. You stand in the temple, surrounded by the weight of forgotten knowledge, your hand still clutching the dagger. The choice before you seems even more uncertain now. The presence of Viracocha, looming in the shadows, adds another layer to the mystery of Pachacamac's past. Was the earth ever truly Pachacamac's to control? Or was he merely a servant to a greater unseen power? You turn your gaze back to the altar, where the blood of the ancient priests once flowed freely. The blood offering, the earthquake ritual lit, was not just about awakening Pachacamac's power. It was about a relationship, a bond between the earth and its worshippers, bond that tied them to the land itself, that bound them to the god who could both create and destroy with a single tremor. But what of the priests who performed the ritual? What of those who fell under the god's thrall, whose blood seeped into the earth, forever binding them to the land? You can feel it now, the earth's pulse, stronger than ever, resonating within you. The god is waiting, watching, listening. The earth trembles again, but this time it feels more like an invitation than a warning. The ritual is still incomplete. The god still waits for the offering. But now, the question is not just whether you are willing to pay the price for awakening Pachacamac. It is whether you are ready to face the consequences of such an awakening, because the god is not alone. Viracocha's shadow stretches across the land, and you cannot shake the feeling that his presence, too, will be awakened in the process. And when that happens, the very earth itself may no longer be what it seems. What if, by invoking Pachacamac, you are not just awakening the god of earthquakes, but the true creator of the world, the one who shaped the mountains and the rivers, the one who brought the sun and the stars to life? What if the price of calling forth Pachacamac is not just an earth-shattering tremor, but the unleashing of a power older, greater, and more dangerous than you can comprehend? The earth trembles again, stronger this time, as if to remind you of the weight of the choice you are about to make. The god waits, the shadows loom, and the whispers call to you once more. The ritual is ready. The offering is yours to give. As you stand in the shadow of the altar, the weight of the decision presses upon you like the very stones that surround you. The earth Pachacamac, Virakakuch, whispering, calling, shaping your thoughts and desires. The ritual beckons, its pull unmistakable, but before you can proceed further, your gaze falls upon something in the corner of the temple, partially obscured by time and dust. It is a pair of pillars. Their presence is quiet, but undeniably powerful. Two massive stone columns, standing proud despite the ravages of time, etched with symbols you cannot fully comprehend. They are not like the altar, nor like any part of the temple you have seen thus far. These pillars, standing in silent reverence, seem to carry with them a weight far greater than the mere structure of the temple itself. You walk toward them slowly, your footsteps echoing in the empty space, and with each step, the trembling of the earth beneath you grows louder, more pronounced. It is as though the very ground is reacting to your approach, urging you to uncover what lies within these silent stones. The pillars seem to hum with an energy, an unspoken power that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. You can feel the weight of the earth's ancient power embedded within them, the lingering presence of Pachacamac. Their surface is covered in intricate carvings, far older and more worn than the rest of the temple. There is something haunting about them, an ancient knowledge sealed within, waiting for someone to discover it. The pillars are silent, and yet they speak. Each one bears a symbol of immense power, one that you do not recognize but can feel deep in your bones. Markings are circular, spiraling outwards like the tremors of an earthquake, and as you touch them, you can almost hear a low, rhythmic thrum in the air. The earth moves beneath your fingertips, and the very fabric of the temple seems to shudder in response. It is then that you realize something. These pillars are not just symbols. They are the conduits of Pachacamac's power. The god's will is not just contained in the blood offered to the earth, nor in the quakes that shake the land. These pillars are the bridges between the earth and the heavens, the living embodiments of Pachacamac's influence. To awaken the god, to bring him into the world once more, you must first understand what these pillars represent. They are the first keys to unlocking Pachacamac's true power, the secret to controlling the earth itself. The rituals, the sacrifices, the offerings, these were never enough on their own. The pillars were meant to serve as conduits for the god's might, a means to call upon him with a power far greater than what the priests of old could have imagined. The earth beneath you rumbles as you press your hand against one of the pillars. The carvings seem to shift under your touch, the symbols twisting and turning, revealing new layers of meaning. It is as though the pillars themselves are alive, reacting to your presence, seeking someone worthy of their power. But what is the true nature of their power? The ancient texts speak of a pact between the earth and its worshippers, a contract sealed with blood and devotion. The priests who once served Pachacamac believed that these pillars could channel the god's essence, that through them, the earth's tremors could be controlled, harnessed, and even directed. But there is something more, something darker hidden beneath their surface. You step back from the pillar, feeling a shudder pass through you as the earth trembles again. The pillars seem to be beckoning you, urging you to complete the ritual. But the knowledge they carry, this ancient forbidden knowledge, feels heavy, dangerous.
Ow.
The more you touch them, the more you sense that the power of Pachacamac is not something that should be controlled. It is a force of nature, a raw and primal energy that flows through the land. To use it, to awaken it, is to risk everything. You wonder then, what happened to those who came before you? The priests, the high priests who stood in this very spot. They invoked the pillars, they invoked the god, and yet, they vanished. Did they fall victim to the earth's tremors, consumed by the very power they sought to command? Or did they leave something behind? A warning, perhaps, hidden in the depths of these sacred stones. You step away, uncertain, the weight of your choices pressing down on you. The pillars stand silent once more, their power waiting. But now you feel the tension between them, the air crackling with the unspoken force that binds them to the land. You know that the god is close now, waiting for the final piece of the puzzle to fall into place. The earth trembles once more, not with the violence of an earthquake, but with the subtle promise of something greater. The god's power, channeled through these pillars, is nearly within your reach. But can you control it? Or will it consume you, as it did those who came before? You take one last look at the sacred pillars, feeling the pull of the god, of the earth, of the power that lies just beneath the surface. It is time to choose. The weight of the pillar's power lingers in your chest, heavy, suffocating. The temple, once a place of devotion and sacred rituals, now feels like a tumid silence, a reflection of the god who's been abandoned. Its walls echoing the forgotten whispers of those who once worshipped here. You stand in the center of it all, the ancient carvings, the trembling earth, and the curse that hangs in the air. It is a curse, though you do not fully understand it yet. The stories tell of a time when Pachacamac was revered, and his followers offered sacrifices of blood and worshipped the trembling earth. But what happened to them? What became of the priests who once invoked the god, those who bound themselves to the earth's tremors, and the people who relied on the god's power to shape their world? They vanished. They disappeared without a trace. The earth itself has forgotten them, or so it seems. But the temple, the pillars, the altar, the stone carvings they remember, they carry the memory of those who came before you, their devotion, their sacrifices, and their fall from grace. You can feel it now, deep within the earth. The god's power is not just dormant. It is waiting for the right moment to awaken, but that moment is tied to something darker, something hidden. The curse of forgotten worship is not just the god's anger. It is something far more insidious. The faithful who performed the rituals, who spilled their blood on the altar, are now bound to the god, their souls entwined with Pachacamac's. Their bodies may have withered away, their names lost to time, but their spirits remain, prisoners of the earth. They are the silent watchers, the lost souls who still walk the land, unable to leave, unable to break free from the god they once worshipped. You wonder if their fate is yours to share. Will you too become a part of the earth, bound to its tremors, its power, its eternal rhythm? The whispers grow louder now, a cacophony of voices that seem to fill the very air around you. They are not speaking to you, but through you. They are the voices of the long forgotten, of those who once served Pachacamac, now trapped in the silence of the earth. You can feel their presence now, not as a distant memory, but as something tangible, something alive. Their eyes are on you. Their voices are in your mind, urging you to follow the path they once walked, to make the offering, to spill the blood, to awaken the god. But is it worth it? Is this the price of calling upon Pachacamac to become one of them? Lost to time, forever bound to the land? The pillars hum with a low, vibrating energy, and the earth trembles once again. It is a tremor unlike any you have felt before. It is not the god's awakening, not yet. It is the land itself, reaching out to you, urging you to listen to the curse of those who came before. The curse is not just one of abandonment. It is one of ritual, of the binding power of devotion. Once the god is called, once the offering is made, you cannot escape. You are a part of the earth, and the earth will always remember you. The god's power, though great, is not given freely. It is earned through sacrifice, through the blood of those who have given everything for the god's favor. And in the end, they too were consumed by the very power they sought to control. You cannot escape the feeling that this is where the ritual begins and ends. The offering of blood, the awakening of the god, the calling forth of the power from beneath the earth, it is a cycle that cannot be broken. The very stones of the temple seem to pulse with the truth of it. The earth is a prison for those who invoke Pachacamac, a tomb for those who seek to control his power. But the question lingers: you've prepared to pay the price for the god's favor? Are you ready to become a part of this curse? To be bound to the earth forever? To feel the tremors of Pachacamac's power every time the earth shakes? You stand alone now in the temple, surrounded by the echoes of the past, the whispers of the lost. The offering still awaits. The ritual still calls to you. The god is near. But so too is the curse, the fate of all those who have come before you, now forgotten by the world, their souls imprisoned in the earth's depths. The earth trembles once more, a soft, almost imperceptible shake, as though the god is waiting for you to decide. What will you choose? Will you continue, awaken the god, and face the curse of forgotten worship? Or will you turn away, leaving the god to slumber in the earth, where he has remained for so long, untouched, forgotten. The choice is yours, but remember, the earth will always remember.
Always.
Pachacamac will always remember. The wind howls through the temple now, carrying with it a sense of urgency that cannot be ignored. The earth itself seems to tremble harder with each passing moment, as though the very land is drawing nearer to something that you cannot yet fully grasp. You stand amidst the ancient pillars, their power pressing in around you, the weight of their silent energy making it hard to breathe. The whispers, the voices of the forgotten, grow louder. But there is another voice, now a single whisper that cuts through the others, rising above the rest. It is a woman's voice. Her voice is soft, yet strong. Her words are shrouded in mystery, spoken not in the tongue of the mortal world, but in the sacred language of the earth. I am the one who saw the truth, she says. The one who understood the God's will? But my understanding came at a price. The price of my soul. You pause, feeling the weight of her words pressing down on you, and the air grows heavy once again. The earth trembles beneath you, and you know that you are not alone in the temple. The high priestess, the one who once stood at the altar of Pachacamac, who performed the most sacred rituals, has left her mark on this place. But what happened to her? Where did she go? The high priestess was said to be the one who truly understood Pachacamac. She was the keeper of his secrets, the one who could commune with the god himself. Her rituals were said to be the most powerful, the ones that could move the earth itself. But as time wore on, she disappeared, vanished without a trace. No one knows what became of her, though many believe that she was lost to the god she served. The stories say that she was the only one who could truly appease Pachacamac, who could calm his wrath and control his power. She was the god's most loyal servant, and yet even she was not immune to the god's terrible price. It is said that she came too close to the truth, that she uncovered something that was never meant to be known, something forbidden, something dark. And in the end, it consumed her. What did she find? What did she learn that was so dangerous, so powerful that it led to her disappearance? Was she swallowed by the earth itself, as some believe? Or did she fall victim to a greater power, one that even the high priestess could not control? The whispers grow louder, and you feel a sudden, overwhelming presence in the temple. It is as though the very walls are closing in around you, as though the god himself is watching you, waiting for you to uncover the truth of the high priestess's fate. You wonder if the secret she uncovered is the same one that lies hidden in the pillars, the one that you are beginning to sense deep within the earth. You take a step forward, the air thick with the weight of the god's power, and you feel the earth tremble beneath you once more. The high priestess's presence lingers in this place, and her story is intertwined with the very fabric of the temple. She was the one who dared to seek the god's true will, to delve deeper into the mysteries of the earth, but in doing so, she lost herself. She became one with the earth, her soul bound to the god's power, her fate sealed by the very rituals she once performed. You wonder if she is still here, hidden among the stones, her spirit trapped in the earth, unable to escape the god's grasp. Could it be that the god is calling you to take her place, to continue the rituals she began, to complete what she could not? The thought is both enticing and terrifying. The god's power is within your reach, but so too is the curse. To awaken Pachacamac, to call forth his power, would mean becoming a part of the earth, bound to its tremors for eternity. The high priestess understood this. But she also understood the god's true nature, the nature of destruction and creation, of life and death. She knew that to serve Pachacamac was to risk everything, to give up one's mortal soul in exchange for his power. And yet, she still chose to serve, still chose to seek the god's favor, knowing full well the cost. As the earth trembles beneath your feet, you feel the weight of her decision pressing upon you. What would you do in her place? Would you offer yourself to the god, knowing that your fate is sealed, that your soul will be bound to the earth forever? Would you turn away, leaving the god to slumber, leaving the earth to remain undisturbed? The choice is yours, but the fate of the high priestess serves as a warning. There are some truths that should not be uncovered, some powers that should not be awakened. The god's power is not a gift, it is a curse, one that will bind you to the earth for eternity. Just as it bound the high priestess, just as it bound all those who came before her. You feel the presence of the god again, stronger now, closer. He watches, waiting for you to make your choice. The high priestess is gone, but her story remains. Her sacrifice is woven into the fabric of this place, and it is a story that will not be forgotten. The earth trembles again, but this time you feel it deep within you, as though the god is stirring, waiting for you to make the final offering. What will you do? The silence of the temple is broken only by the sound of your heartbeat thudding in your ears. The presence of Pachacamac is near, closer now than ever before. You feel it in the trembling of the earth beneath you, in the thick electric air that surrounds you. The whispers, the voices of the past, grow louder still. But now, there is something else, something hidden beneath their murmurings and image. A symbol, a sigil. It flashes in your mind, unbidden, ancient, and yet strangely familiar. The sigil is carved into the walls of the temple, hidden deep within the shadows, in places where the light does not reach. Its shape is simple, yet unsettling: three interlocking triangles, each pointing toward a central, jagged point. The lines that form the sigil seem to pulse, as though they are alive, waiting for you to decipher their meaning. It is a symbol so forbidden, so dangerous, that it was hidden away, its existence erased from history by those who feared its power. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the cold stone of the wall. As you touch the sigil, the earth trembles beneath you. It is a deep, resounding shake, not like the tremors you have felt before. This is different. This is a warning. The god is stirring, watching you, and he does not want you to uncover the sigil's secret. But the pull is irresistible. You know that you cannot ignore it, not now. The sigil is more than just a symbol. It is a key to unlocking the true nature of Pachacamac's power. You have felt it in the tremors, in the whispers. In the very air you breathe, the god's power is not merely of destruction, as you once believed. It is far greater, more ancient than you can comprehend. The sigil, hidden deep within the temple, is the map to that power, a way to call upon the earth's most primal forces. But there is a price, and you know it. The price is always steep when dealing with such ancient powers. You study the sigil, the lines of it twisting in your mind, and something clicks. The sigil represents more than just the god's power. It is a summoning, a call to the earth itself, a way to tap into the heart of the land, to awaken the god fully and completely. It is not a ritual, not like the blood offerings or the quake summoning. This is something different. This is a binding, a permanent connection between you and the god, between the land and your soul. To invoke the sigil is to give yourself to the earth, to become part of its trembling pulse, part of the ancient rhythm of Pachacamac's power. As your hand hovers over the sigil, you can feel the god's presence intensify. It is as though the earth itself is pulling you closer to the symbol, urging you to make the choice to claim the power that lies within it. The sigil, though forbidden, holds a truth. It is the way to awaken Pachacamac in his purest form, to bring forth the full force of the god's essence, to become one with the earth's tremors. But what happens when you summon the god with the sigil? What will it cost you? Oh, the priests who once used the sigil were never seen again. Their names have been lost to time. Their souls consumed by the earth they sought to control. Sigil, though it grants power, also binds the one who invokes it to the land, to the god. The earth trembles for them, and with each quake, they are drawn deeper into its grasp. They are no longer mere mortals, they become part of the land, bound to the god's will, trapped in the rhythm of the earth's heartbeat. You tremble as you stand before the sigil, the weight of the choice pressing down on you. You feel the god's power coursing through your veins, the very earth beneath your feet vibrating with life. The sigil is the key, but it is also the trap. The more you understand it, the more you realize that to use it is to sacrifice yourself. The god's power cannot be controlled. It can only be accepted, embraced, and in the end, it consumes those who seek it. The earth trembles again, louder now, as though Pachacamac is urging you to decide. You can feel the sigil's power growing stronger, its pull drawing you closer to the earth, to the heart of the god's essence. The god is waiting for you to make the choice to awaken him fully, to call forth the power of the earth and bind yourself to it forever, but you are no longer sure. The sigil, once a symbol of divine power, now feels like a curse. The price of awakening Pachacamac is not just blood or sacrifice, It is the very essence of your soul, your very existence. To call upon the sigil is to give yourself to the earth, to become part of its eternal tremors, to surrender to the God's will. The whispers grow louder, urging you to make your choice. The earth itself is waiting for you to invoke the sigil, to awaken the God. But can you bear the cost? Can you pay the price of such power? You feel the earth tremble one last time, and the sigil pulses beneath your fingers. The God is waiting, and the power of the earth is within your grasp. But will you take it? Will you invoke the sigil and bind yourself to the land, to the God, to the very heart of the earth's trembling power? The choice is yours, but the sigil is not to be trifled with. It is a forbidden truth, a dangerous knowledge, and once invoked, it cannot be undone. You stand there, heart pounding, fingers still hovering over the sigil. The air around you is thick, almost suffocating with the weight of the God's presence. Pachacamac stirs in the earth beneath your feet, his ancient power radiating from the stone walls of the temple, from the very ground you walk upon. The tremors are no longer faint. They are full-bodied now, reverberating through your chest, echoing in your very bones. The earth, the God, they are alive, pulsing with life, with energy, with an eternal rhythm that you feel in every fiber of your being. The sigil pulses beneath your fingertips, an insistent throb, as if it is calling you, beckoning you closer to the heart of the earth. The power contained within it is undeniable, raw, untamed. But you feel something else as well, something deeper, darker, that lies just beneath the surface of the God's power. It is the sigh of the earth. It is subtle at first, almost imperceptible, like a distant murmur on the wind. But then it grows louder, more defined, like the soft, sorrowful breath of the earth itself. It is a sound unlike any you have ever heard before. It is not the roar of an earthquake, not the sharp, violent tremor that shakes the land. It is something quieter, more mournful. The earth is sighing as if it is tired of the weight of the God's power, tired of the tremors that have shaken the land for millennia, tired of being bound by the eternal rhythm of creation and destruction. The sigh of the earth is the sound of exhaustion, of a world that has been turned over and over again by the God's will, of a land that has been shaped and reshaped by the tremors, by the power that Pachacamac wields. It is the sound of a God whose power is both creator and destroyer, whose influence is both life-giving and soul-crushing. It is the sound of a land that has borne witness to countless cycles of creation and destruction. And now, in its ancient age, it is weary. You feel the sigh in your very core. It echoes within you, as if the earth's exhaustion has seeped into your bones. It is a quiet surrender, an acceptance of what has been and what will come. The sigh is not one of regret. It is simply the earth's way of acknowledging the endless cycle of life and death, of creation and destruction. The God's power is not something to be feared. It is something to be understood. It is something that must be embraced, for the earth's rhythm cannot be stopped. It is the eternal pulse of existence. The sigh deepens, and with it, you feel the weight of centuries pressing down upon you. The God, though still waiting, is not unyielding. His power is not a force that can be controlled or contained. It is a force that moves through time, through space, through the very fabric of existence itself. The God's power is the earth's scythe, acceptance of the cycle. The unspoken truth that creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin. You realize now that you are standing at the crossroads of this eternal rhythm. Sigil, the power, the offering, it is all part of this cycle. To awaken the God, to invoke his power is not to control it, but to become a part of it. The earth's sigh is a reminder of that. The earth does not control the God, so God does not control the earth. They are bound together in a dance of creation and destruction, a rhythm that has existed since the dawn of time. The God is waiting, but now you are no longer afraid. You understand? The power you seek is not something that will bring you glory or destruction. It is something that will make you part of the earth itself. You will no longer be a mere observer. You will become a part of the rhythm, a part of the sigh, a part of the eternal pulse of the land. The sigh grows fainter now, as if the earth is at peace, or at least as peaceful as it can be. It is the acceptance of what is, and what must always be. The earth's sigh is not one of sadness. It is a sigh of release, of surrender, of knowing that the cycle will continue, whether you choose to embrace it or not, but the choice remains yours. The sigil still pulses beneath your fingertips. The earth still trembles with the god's power, and the ritual is ready to be completed. Will you make the offering? Will you invoke Pachacamac's power, binding yourself to the earth, to the god's eternal rhythm? The sigh fades, leaving behind a stillness that fills the temple. The whispers, the tremors, the pull of the sigil, they all wait for your decision. The god, the earth, and the scythe, they're waiting for you to make your choice. You are no longer just a visitor in this ancient temple. You're part of the earth now, part of the eternal cycle, whether you choose to embrace it or not. The power, the rhythm, the sigh, they are all within your grasp. But the question remains, what will you do? The air is thick now, heavier with the weight of the decision you must make. You feel the presence of the earth more strongly than ever, as though you are no longer walking upon it, but within it. The walls of the temple close in around you, the whispers of the forgotten priests and the sigh of the earth blending into one voice. The god Pachacamac is watching you now. His power courses beneath your feet, through the trembling stone and into the very core of your being. The sigil pulses once more, this time faster, almost as if in anticipation, as if waiting for you to take the next step. The tremors in the earth grow stronger, reverberating through your entire body, as though the god is calling you, urging you to claim what was once given freely, what was promised in ancient times, and then you feel it, the contract. It is not written in words or etched in stone. It is not a promise made in blood, nor is it a deal struck by those who worshipped long before you. It is something deeper, something older. This contract is the very essence of the earth's rhythm, a pact that binds the god to the land to the god, and those who dare to worship to the eternal pulse of creation and destruction. The god's power is not freely given. It cannot be obtained without consequence. The god does not simply answer prayers, nor does he offer his favor to those who seek him. To invoke Pachacamac's name, to call upon his power, is to enter into a contract with the earth itself. It is a bond that will never be broken, a pact that will tie you to the land, to the very rhythm of the earth's tremors for eternity. You realize now that the high priestess, the one who disappeared long ago, was not simply a servant of Pachacamac. She was the one who understood the contract, the one who truly knew what it meant to be bound to the god's power. Her disappearance, her vanishing into the earth, was not a punishment, it was the fulfillment of the contract. She became part of the god's will, a soul bound to the land, a spirit tied to the rhythm of the earth's pulse. As you stand in the temple, you understand the truth that the priests of old could not. The blood sacrifices, the rituals, the offerings, they were never enough. They're only part of the process. The initial steps in a contract that binds the worshiper to the earth and the god. The real cost is not blood. Regret, it is the soul, the very essence of the one who seeks the god's power. To invoke Pachacamac, to awaken the god and claim his power, is to surrender yourself, to give up your mortal existence and become part of the earth's eternal cycle. The sigil before you is not just a symbol. It is the key to the contract, the gateway to the god's power. And once it is invoked, once the contract is sealed, there is no turning back. The earth will tremble with your offering, and you will become one with it. You will be bound to the god's will, tied to the rhythm of the earth's tremors forever. The god's power is not a gift. It is a responsibility, a burden. To serve Pachacamac is to understand that the land is not simply a place to live, is a living, breathing entity, and its will is not to be ignored. The earth's power is fickle, unpredictable, and dangerous. But it is also life. It is the force that shapes the world, the energy that drives creation, and the force that brings destruction. The choice is now yours. The sigil beckons, the earth trembles beneath you, and the whispers of the forgotten priests fill your ears. The god is waiting for you to complete the ritual, to make the offering, to seal the contract. But the cost is not small. The earth will claim you as its own, and you will be bound to its will, to the tremors that shake the land, for all eternity. Do you accept the contract? Do you take the god's power, knowing the price you must pay? Or do you turn away, leaving the god to slumber once more, leaving the earth to remain undisturbed? The earth's pulse quickens, and you feel the weight of the decision pressing upon you. You are no longer standing in a temple, in a forgotten place of worship. You are standing at the threshold of something far greater, something that will change not only your fate, but the fate of the earth itself. The rhythm of the earth, the god's pulse, is now yours to command, but only if you are willing to pay the price. The earth sighs again, a deeper, more mournful exhale than before, and in that moment, you understand. The earth is not simply a passive entity, waiting to be shaped by the will of the gods or their worshippers. It is alive. It is always listening, always feeling, always shifting in response to the desires of those who call upon it. The tremors that shake the land are not random. They are the earth's response. Its acknowledgement of those who seek to awaken it, to understand it, to control it. But there is something deeper in this moment, something unsettling. The earth does not speak in a voice you can hear. It does not speak with words, nor does it announce its intentions. It speaks in silence. The absence of sound is the earth's language. The absence of action is its message. The more you think about it, the more you understand that the true nature of Pachacamac's power lies not in the tremors. It's not in the earthquakes themselves, but in the silence that follows them. In every legend of Pachacamac's wrath, of the destruction he brings when the earth trembles beneath the feet of mortals, there is one truth that has always been overlooked: the silence that comes after the quake, the silence that follows the destruction. It is a silence that is not just an absence of noise, but an absence of purpose. After the quakes have come, after the earth has spoken with fury and force, there is nothing left. It's no warning, no explanation, just the quiet aftermath. The stillness that remains once everything has been shaken apart. You realize with a sudden clarity that the true horror of Pachacamac's power is not in the destruction he brings, but in the silence that follows it. After the ritual is performed, after the god is awakened, there will be no more questions, no more answers. There will only be the silence, the quiet understanding that you too will be part of the land, part of the tremors, part of the endless rhythm of creation and destruction that Pachacamac embodies. The earth trembles again, but this time, the quake is barely noticeable. It is not violent, not destructive. It is not a sign of the god's displeasure, nor is it a signal that something great is about to unfold. It is a reminder that the god is always present, always watching, always listening. And yet, it is also a reminder that once you have invoked the god, once you have entered into his domain, there is no turning back. There will be no more answers, no more choices, no more understanding. The earth shakes, but the silence that follows is deafening. You feel it in your chest, in your bones, in the deepest parts of your soul. It is a silence that does not simply fill the temple, but fills your very existence. The god, the earth, and you are now one. The offering has been made, the contract sealed. The silence that follows the quake is the only truth that remains. As you stand in the temple, the sigil still pulsing beneath your fingertips, the earth's tremors now quieting, you realize that the god has already claimed you. The power, the rhythm, the tremors, they are yours now. You are bound to them, just as the priests before you were bound. Just as the high priestess was bound. And yet, even in the silence, the earth is still alive. You can feel it in the ground beneath you and the stones that surround you. The pulse of the earth is steady, rhythmic, as though it is breathing with you. But you also know that this breath will not last forever. The silence will not be permanent. The tremors will come again. When they do, you will be there. A part of the earth, a part of the god's eternal power. The question lingers in your mind. Is this what you truly wanted? To be bound to the earth in this way? To be part of the god's eternal rhythm? Or was there something more, something deeper, that you did not understand before? The silence that follows the quake is not the end of the story, it is only the beginning. The earth trembles once more, but this time, it is not the violent rumble of the god's power. It is something else, something softer, something more intimate. It is the pulse of the earth, the heartbeat of Pachacamac, and you are part of it now. You feel it in every inch of your being, in every breath you take, in every step you make. The earth is not just beneath you, it is within you. And yet, as you stand in the temple, the whispers of the forgotten priests still linger in the air. Their voices, once urgent and filled with the power of devotion, are now distant, faded, like echoes of a time long past. They were once part of the earth, part of the gods' power. But now they are lost, their names forgotten, their sacrifices erased from history. The earth sighs again, this time quieter than before, as if it is waiting for something more. It is not finished. It is never finished. The gods' power, the earth's rhythm, will continue long after you are gone. The tremors will shake the land, and the silence will follow. The god will wait for those brave enough or foolish enough to invoke him again. And so, you stand at the edge of the temple, the sigil still glowing faintly before you. The earth trembles beneath your feet, and the silence that follows is as heavy as the weight of the world itself. The god is waiting. The earth grows still, eerily so, as if holding its breath in anticipation. You stand in the center of the temple, a quiet prisoner to the rhythm of the land, the god's power resonating deep within you.
Pachacamac's tremors, once so violent, so potent, have quieted for now.
The earth has no need to shake, no need to rattle the foundations of the world, for it knows that you are bound to it now. There is no escape. The god's influence is subtle now, like a quiet hum beneath your skin. You no longer need to invoke him with words or blood. You can feel him with every breath, every heartbeat in the pulse of the earth beneath your feet. Pachacamac's power flows through you. His presence with you always, a constant companion, a lingering force that will never leave. The earth is no longer just the land beneath you. It is you, and you are it. But this stillness, this quiet connection, feels fragile, as though it could shatter at any moment. You know that the god is only dormant for now, waiting, biding his time, much like the earth itself. For what is Pachacamac, if not the embodiment of the earth's eternal rhythms, creation, destruction, birth, and death, part of his eternal dance? As the temple falls into silence once more, you can almost hear the distant rumble of something far greater than just the earth beneath your feet. It is the stirrings of something more ancient, more powerful than the god you have called. It is Viracocha, the creator god of the Andes, a being who once shaped the very mountains and rivers of the world. The silence that now fills the temple is not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something older still. You feel it deep within your soul shift. A tremor in the air that speaks not of Pachacamac, but of something more. The god's power, though vast, is not infinite. Even he must answer to a greater force, and you now stand at the crossroads between the two. Viracocha, the god who created the world, the one who set the rhythm of existence into motion, still watches. He is silent now, but his presence is undeniable. The stories of Viracocha are whispered with awe, tales of a god who walked the earth and shaped the sky. But he is not a god of the earth. No, Viracocha's power lies in the heavens, in the stars, the sun, and the sky itself. He created the world, but Pachacamac, the god of earthquakes, shapes it. He molds it with the tremors, the movements that stirred the land. The gods are not equal in their power. Each serves a role in the grand, unbroken cycle of creation and destruction. You feel the tension between them now, the pull of the earth, of Pachacamac's power, and the weight of Viracocha's ancient divine hand that created it all. The two gods are bound in their eternal roles, each serving their purpose, yet always aware of one another. Pachacamac is the earth's heartbeat, its rhythm of change, while Viracocha is the quiet force that set all things in motion. The cycle is unbroken, yet incomplete. And so, you feel yourself drawn, not just to Pachacamac, but to the unknown. What if you could awaken Viracocha as well? Could you awaken both gods? Could the earth tremble beneath your feet, and the sky tremble above your head? Could you, by invoking both gods, bring about a change, something greater than either one could accomplish alone? But the thought is dangerous, filled with uncertainty. To call upon both gods is to risk everything. For there is a price to be paid when two great forces collide. The earth and the heavens are not meant to be controlled by mortal hands. You would be playing with forces beyond your understanding, beyond the power of even the gods themselves. And yet, the temptation remains. In the stillness of the temple, you stand at the threshold of something new. The earth still trembles beneath you, its pulse quickening in response to your thoughts. The sigil that you invoked is still glowing, faint but present. You know that at any moment, the power of Pachacamac could flood through you once more, filling you with the earth's rhythm, binding you to the god forever. But there is more to the story. There is the god above, the one who created the earth, who shaped it with his divine hand. Revered waits, silent, watching, listening to your every thought. The pull between the two gods is strong, but the choice remains yours. What will you do? Will you call upon both gods, risking everything to awaken them together, to see what happens when creation and destruction collide? Or will you accept the silence, the stillness, and live with the knowledge that you are bound to the earth, part of its tremors, forever? The earth's pulse quickens once more, a final reminder that the choice is yours to make. The gods are waiting, the power is yours to claim, but the cost is not something you can fully comprehend. The question now is whether you are ready to face the consequences of your decision. The tremors grow louder, and the earth, Pachacamac and Revered wait for you. The time for silence is over. The air is thick now, heavier than it's ever been, filled with a tension that you can almost taste. The earth beneath you is restless, its pulse a constant rhythmic throb, a reminder of the power that stirs within it. You feel the weight of the choice pressing down on you, the very land beneath you quivering in anticipation, as though it too awaits your decision. Pachacamac, the god of earthquakes, has been called. His power is yours to command, to awaken fully. But at what cost? The silence, once filled with the murmurs of the past, has now transformed into a thick, oppressive stillness. Even the whispers have faded. The gods, Pachacamac and Revered, the earth and the heavens, are waiting for you to act. You are caught between them, pulled in two directions, each one as powerful and ancient as the other. You wonder, fleetingly, if the god of creation and the god of destruction were ever meant to coexist in harmony. And if so, what would it mean for the world if you were to bring them together? There is a moment of clarity, sharp, unyielding. The god's power is no longer something abstract, something distant. It is here, it is now, and it is yours to claim. You feel the pull of the earth beneath your feet, the stirring of the tremors growing stronger, almost unbearably so. And then you hear it. The god's voice like a distant rumble, low and unsettling. You feel it? Pachacamac's voice seems to vibrate in your very bones. The earth trembles because I wait. I wait for you to call me fully, to accept my power as your own. But know this, to awaken me is to bind yourself to me, to the very rhythm of the earth's breath. I will shape your soul as I shape the land, and when you fall to dust, your spirit will remain in my tremors. The words linger in the air, thick with meaning. The price of awakening Pachacamac is no longer a mystery. The god's power is not something you can wield and then discard. It will become a part of you, just as it is a part of the earth. The tremors will follow you, the pulse of creation and destruction forever intertwined with your existence. Yet still you are torn. You cannot help but think of Revered, God who created it all, the God whose presence is felt in the heavens. His power is subtle, quiet, and yet it is undeniable. You feel his presence growing stronger, as though he too is watching, waiting, and listening. He who set the stars in place, who breathed life into the world, now watches as you stand at the crossroads between him and Pachacamac. To awaken one is to ignore the other. But you wonder, could the gods be awakened together? Could the creator and the destroyer, the earth and the heavens, coexist? Could you call upon both their powers and wield them as one? In this silence, you feel the truth wash over you. It is not just a question of power, of who you will call upon or what price you are willing to pay. It is about the balance of all things. Creation cannot exist without destruction, and destruction cannot occur without the promise of creation. The gods of the earth and the heavens are intertwined. They are two halves of a whole, and they are inseparable. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of the earth's tremors beneath your feet. And then, with a steady breath, you make your choice. The ground shakes beneath you, violently now. The very walls of the temple groan, as if they are being torn apart by the power that you have called upon. The sigil, glowing faintly beneath your hand, begins to pulse with a new energy, one that combines both the power of Pachacamac and the influence of Viracocha. The earth quakes with the god's fury, but above you, the sky begins to stir as well. The clouds darkening as if responding to the ancient power that now flows through you. You have called them both. You have awakened them. The earth trembles with a force unlike any other, a rolling quake that shakes the very foundation of the world. The sound of it is deafening, a roar that fills the temple, the land, the heavens. It is the sound of creation and destruction colliding, of God's awaking after millennia of slumber. And yet there is no fear in it. There is only the power, the unyielding, undeniable power of the gods, now fully awakened, now fully alive in you. You are no longer an observer, a mere mortal standing in the presence of the divine. You are part of the earth. You are part of the rhythm of the god's power. You are the pulse of Pachacamac, the creator of the earth's tremors, and you are the hand of Viracocha, the creator of the heavens. You are bound to them as they are bound to you. The temple quakes, the ground beneath your feet shifting, and you feel yourself change. The earth is no longer just beneath you, it is within you. Its tremor is a part of your very soul. The god's power, both destructive and creative, now courses through you. And you know that this is not just the beginning, it is the continuation of something far greater, something that will last for as long as the earth endures. And when you are gone, when your mortal form has crumbled to dust, you will still remain part of the earth, part of the tremors. Part of the eternal rhythm that Pachacamac and Viracocha set in motion long before your time. Their power will live on in you, a part of the land, a part of the gods. The gods are never truly gone. They are always waiting, always watching, always whispering, always trembling beneath the surface of the world. And when the time comes for the next soul to call them forth, the earth will tremble again. The dust settles. The temple, once silent and forgotten, now pulses with life. The tremors that shook its very foundation have quieted, but the earth beneath your feet still thrums with an ancient rhythm. You stand in the heart of the temple, no longer just a visitor, but a part of it, a part of the earth, a part of the gods. The power of Pachacamac and Viracocha flows through you, intertwining with your soul, binding you to the land and the heavens. The earth no longer trembles in fear or anger. It trembles with understanding, with the quiet knowledge that creation and destruction are not separate. They are two halves of the same whole. You are part of that whole now, just as the gods are. The temple, once a forgotten place, now stands as a beacon, a place of power, of memory, of the eternal rhythm of the earth. It is not just a structure of stone and mortar, it is a living, breathing entity filled with the echoes of the gods. The sigil that you invoked continues to pulse faintly, a reminder of the contract you have made, of the power you have called forth. But even as you stand there, surrounded by the ancient power of the gods, you know that the cycle is not complete. The earth will always tremble. The gods will always wait. The power you have awakened will continue to shape the world, to reshape the very fabric of existence. But it is not just for you. It is for the next soul who comes, who feels the pull of the gods, who stands at the crossroads of creation and destruction. The gods will always whisper. The earth will always tremble. The next god will rise, just as Pachacamac once did, just as Viracocha did before him. The rhythm of the earth is eternal, and it will continue long after you are gone. As you stand in the temple, the wind whispers through the cracks in the stone, and the earth sighs once more. The ritual is complete. The gods are awake. And now, it is time for you to listen. If your candle hasn't gone out, then you're probably ready for the next god. The earth trembles, and the journey continues.